Created by Gerry Conway, John Romita Sr., and Ross Andru in 1974, the Punisher is a character who has made a long-lasting impact on the Marvel Universe, and not just Earth 616 universe for that matter. He's a character who's been depicted in a slew of Marvel's alternate realities, often varying in terms of behavior or circumstances, but usually always has a flair for revenge. So today we're returning to our list of the top 10 alternate versions of the Punisher with a part 2. Let's jump in. Number 10, Venomverse from the TRN 651 universe. Starting us off is none other than the Venomized version of Frank Castle from Earth TRN 651 in the Venomverse. Frank's story begins in a similar fashion as his Earth 616 story did, with him waging a war on crime for years. Eventually, Kingpin has had enough of Castle though. He orchestrates a plan to kill the Punisher by collecting all of the crime families of New York together into a manhunt for the vigilante. So Frank gets desperate and makes a deal with the Venom symbiote in order to get an extra leg up on his hunters. The deal with Venom is that he'll bond with him in order to kill Kingpin and all of the other crime families in exchange for killing a target of Venom's choosing, which turns out to be none other than Spider-Man. Frank doesn't want to kill Peter Parker though, and tries to resist. Luckily for him, it's at that very moment that the Venomized Doctor Strange from another universe transports him, recruiting him as part of the Venomized forces to take on the Poisons. Unfortunately for Castle though, he ends up becoming one of the casualties, and is assimilated by the Poisons, becoming Poison Punisher. Alliteration. Moving on to number 9, Ultimate Marvel. In the Ultimate Marvel universe of Earth 1610, Castle is an ex-NYPD officer, whose family was murdered by corrupt police who Castle was planning on exposing. After getting his revenge, he goes around and murders corrupt cops, and is eventually arrested by Captain America. Nick Fury, seeing Castle's potential, saves him from getting the death penalty, and has him join up with the Avengers, in which Castle dons a costume not dissimilar to Cap's. Oh, the irony. In order to keep Punisher in line, a chip is implanted into his body that will electrify him whenever he disobeys orders. He's eventually killed off though in 2014's Cataclysm Ultimates issue 3 after he joined Fury's Black Ops unit, the Howling Commandos. In at number 8, What If from Earth 9140. What would an alternate list be without one or two good what if entries? This one in particular is from the title What If Wolverine Had Become Lord of the Vampires from 1991, Volume 2, Issue 24 of the What If series. As you can probably guess, in this one, Wolverine is the Lord of the Vampires, and Frank is picked out by Doctor Strange's spirit to fight off the vampires. The vampires, which include a ton of X-Men characters, are hunted down by Castle, with him killing off Cyclops, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, and Juggernaut. But his attempts to end the Lord of the Vampires is in vain. While fighting Wolverine, he accidentally kills Kitty Pryde, which sets Wolverine off enough for him to murder Castle. And at number 7, Trevor Castle. Trevor Castle is the product of the Amalgam Comics, a series in which DC and Marvel characters were amalgamated together into new individuals. Frank ends up being blended together with Wonder Woman's main man, Steve Trevor, becoming Trevor Castle. In a comic called Bullets and Bracelets from 1996, Castle's family was killed off during a gang war, which is what led to him becoming the Punisher, as per usual. Except in this reality, he meets Diana Prince, who he eventually marries and has a child with named Ryan. Ryan later on down the road gets kidnapped, and Diana and Castle work together to hunt down the culprit, who turns out to be the Thanos Darkseid amalgam, Thanoside. Creative. Thanoside seemingly kills Ryan until Diana discovers that Thanoside has tricked him. They foil his plan and eventually decide to give their relationship another shot. No pun intended. And at number 6, SOSUMI Brown. SOSUMI Brown is the Frank Castle from Earth 2301, aka the Marvel Mangaverse. She's a boarding school principal by day, vigilante by night, who Japan's media has labeled as their country's kinkiest superhero. Fun stuff. So she hunts down members of the Skang-Ki crime family using her martial prowess and occult knowledge to do so. She fights with wooden paddles to deflect bullets and has a bullwhip for long-range attacks. Up next, number 5, the MC2. Frank Castle of Earth 982, also known as the MC2 universe, first appeared in Spectacular Spider-Girl Volume 2 Issue 1 in 2010, and then died 3 issues later. Castle, still active as the Punisher in the comic, decides to move to South America in order to tackle drug runners there. But his past summons him back to New York City. A Don named Silverback, who he once crippled in battle, has returned, and is in the midst of a gang war with Black Tarantula. Now with cybernetic implants, Silverback fights Castle when he returns, but in their final confrontation, Castle ends up dying. In our number 4 spot, the Ronin Punisher. This version of Frank Castle is from the 2011 5 Ronin comics, a 5-issue limited series that follows reimagined versions of the Punisher, Wolverine, Psylocke, Deadpool, and the Hulk, all as Ronin. aka Masterless Samurai, with all 5 interlocking stories exploring the lonely path in the violent and tumultuous world of feudal Japan. So obviously set in 17th century Japan, the series was inspired by Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. Now according to writer Peter Milligan, this era of Japan was in such a state of flux, which is what appealed to him. One era was ending and a new one beginning. These times are difficult to live through, people are unsure where they stand, and this is a great arena for looking at character and seeing how characters act when taken to uncomfortable places. Now the Punisher goes by the name Akagi, and his story begins with him returning home from Korea after a long war, only to discover that his house is completely gone. He learns that his family was slaughtered, and plans his revenge to kill those responsible. Moving on to number 3, Punisher 2099. I don't need a jetpack, all I need is hate. That is a direct quote from Castle's 2099 alternate, a character who lives on Earth 929, a possible future in which the world has become engulfed in a war between mutants and humans. Set in the year 2099, if the title of our number didn't give it away, Punisher actually isn't Frank Castle. Rather, he's a man named Jake Gallows, an officer who learns of the original Punisher's exploits and adopts the mantle for himself. Now if that opening line didn't give it away, he has a jetpack, and also laser cannons, and he hunts down Kron Stone, who is responsible for the deaths of his mother, brother, and sister-in-law. Punisher also built a prison underneath his house, prisons had been phased out in the future, where he could occasionally sentence particularly bad criminals to death via a molecular destabilizer. Eventually he would work under Dr. Doom, who was president briefly in that timeline, as the Minister of Punishment, and the head of the federal law enforcement called the Ministry of Punishment. He's eventually killed by an alternate version of the original Punisher who gives him crap for wearing his symbol and putting it to shame. In our number 2 spot, Old Man Punisher. Old Man Punisher has quite the story. For starters, there's 2 of them, both from Earth 807128. Now the first appeared in Wolverine Volume 3 issue 68 back in 2008, where he also died. Originally, he and Daredevil were working to bring down Kingpin and take over his territory, only to later be captured and then fed to dinosaurs as part of a sport exhibition in a stadium in Salt Lake City. Now it turns out that that man wasn't Frank Castle though, only a man operating under the name of Punisher. As it's revealed in the 2018 Old Man Logan Annual Issue 1, an elderly Frank Castle makes an appearance, showing up during the Battle of New York where he shoots Electro in the head and kills him. Although he's stabbed in the chest by Kraven the Hunter, he doesn't die. Now don't be fooled by his age, he's still got a whole lot of bite despite his abilities being reduced because of age and memory problems. Anywho, 50 years after the Battle of New York, he reappears, pissed off that a group called the Punishers are going around terrorizing towns. The Punishers, who used to work under the Hulk gang that Old Man Logan had now killed off most of, are ruining Castle's legacy, and they've stolen something very valuable to him, his war journal and a picture of his family. Castle and Logan work together to take them down and rescue a bunch of kidnapped children in the process, and despite being victorious, Castle is fatally injured. He dies looking at his recovered war journal and the photo of his family one last time. And finally, in at number 1, Cosmic Ghost Rider. Let's end off our list with an alternate that's batshit crazy. The Cosmic Ghost Rider of Earth TRN 666. Castle's story on this Earth starts out the same way it does on Earth 616, but changes during the fight against Thanos. In the battle, Castle is killed when he suffers a fatal head injury. His soul goes to hell. I mean, makes sense. There, Castle has a burning desire for revenge against Thanos for plaguing the Earth, so he strikes up a deal with Mephisto in order to become Ghost Rider. By the time he returns to Earth though, Thanos is already gone, having destroyed pretty much all life on the planet. So Castle roams the barren planet, losing his mind due to utter loneliness. Eventually Mephisto even begins to ignore him. Then, one day, Galactus comes to the planet, seeking help to fight against Thanos. Ghost Rider offers up Earth to the godlike entity in exchange for becoming his herald so that he can get his revenge on the Mad Titan. Galactus accepts, endows Castle with the power cosmic, and the two work together to hunt down Thanos. When they find him though, Thanos beheads Galactus and kills him almost immediately. Then Thanos strikes up a deal with Castle. He'll show the undying Ghost Rider all of the evil he could ever want to punish, for 1,000 lifetimes. Only if he works for him. Thus begins a whole lot of time travel and an encounter with baby Thanos. It's an interesting storyline to say the least. Alright, there we have it friends, there's plenty more alternates where that came from, so if you folks want us to do a part 3 of this list, give us a shout in those comments below. If you dug this video, show some love and slap that like button, and if you're new, why not subscribe? We'd love it if you hung out with us some more. In the meantime though, thanks for watching friends, I'll catch you all in the next video.